Good morning. I'm joined by Doug Chabot from Gallatin National Forest Avalanche Center. Doug, I hate starting out the new year on this note, and unfortunately we're talking about a fatality in the southwestern portion of this area.
Yeah, we had on New Year's Eve, there was a snowmobiler who was killed in an avalanche down by Cook City on a peak called Crown Butte, and that's incredibly tragic.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, the hard thing, it's a hard lesson for everybody to learn, but we can learn from this particular event, right?
Yeah. I mean, anytime there's an accident, we know something went wrong. And so we can always just kind of pick that apart and look at, well, what are some of the lessons that we have here? And when we look at this incident, it was two young men. They were snowmobiling up a peak, and the good thing, they were going one at a time. So there was only one person on the slope when it was released. He rode up high and it broke out on him and buried him. They had almost all their rescue gear. They had shovels, probes, and he even had an airbag. They both had airbags. But what they were missing was an avalanche transceiver. And when you're completely buried in the snow and there's nothing sticking out, the transceiver is the most efficient way to find someone. And without that, it took them a little over an hour to dig them out, and which is pretty quick. They had a probe line where you're actually like probing into the snow to try and find them, and they found them and dug them out relatively quickly for a probe line. But in terms of trying to survive being buried that long, without a beacon, it really cuts down on any sort of chances on that.
Let's talk a little bit. We've already talked about the need for safety and training and all that, but let's talk about the conditions out there.
So right now, what we have is we had a lot of snow right before Christmas and even a little bit last week, and we've got some weak layers in the snowpack. And all throughout southwest Montana, we have two weak layers. We have one near the ground, and we have one about 1 to 2 feet from the surface. And so we're seeing avalanches break on those layers. But the tricky part is it's getting more stable, and so it's not like you're going to go out and you will trigger it or you will see avalanches. It's kind of like, no, you're not going to see that. It's going to be, relatively okay, but if you were unlucky or you didn't do your homework and dig down in the snow to look, you could easily get on a slope, which is dangerous. And as we saw with this avalanche, the avalanches that occur can be quite large.
Yeah, and I think that's key, especially with the amount of snow that we picked up, the wind loading, and all kinds of...
Exactly. And this week is supposed to be a clear week, so, we won't have new loading, because loading always, can tip the balance, into making avalanches. But what clear weather does is it creates new weak layers at the surface, which then get buried with the next storm. So, there's always something to worry about.
And of course, the basics, we want everybody to stay safe.
Yes, we do.
All right, Doug, until next time, you're watching Montana This Morning with Doug Chabot. I'm Matt Elwell.